everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BSN Network podcast. Today is Thursday, August 11th. Hope everybody is having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Thursday, August 11th here today, coming off another big day yesterday in the world of sports. Really, baseball was another big day. Talked about yesterday. You had the Mets on from 1 o'clock to 4. Then the Yankees came on, so you had that, and then 4 to 7. So it was a very, very big day of baseball yesterday. A lot of games on, as today the Yankees and Mets will both have days off. So you go from a very big day yesterday to a day off today for both the Yankees and the Mets, as the Yankees will travel to Boston and the Mets will await the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park, or Citi Field rather, starting tomorrow with a 3-game set over the weekend. It was a rough day for the Yankees yet again. I feel like I've said that many times over the past couple weeks. Really ever since the All-Star break, I feel as if I've been saying it's a rough week or a rough series for the Yankees, but it was. Yankees lose 2 of 3 again, and it's the way they're losing these games, and I'm going to get more into it to start the show today. But yet again, it's just another head-scratching loss for the Yankees, and it's frustrating. It's just one of those things where this is where you really start to get concerned. Like, this is the team that's expected to go on and win it all. When you have guys in the minor leagues that are producing at a very high rate that you aren't bringing up. I mean, Ron Marinaccio, why is he not up? What is Albert Abreu doing up in the major leagues? I understand the Yankees like his stuff. I understand they see something in him. But Ron Marinaccio is so much better than Albert Abreu. And it boggles my mind that Marinaccio is in the minor leagues right now, and Abreu's still on this roster and still pitching, and he's been atrocious his past couple outings. So, really frustrating loss yesterday for the Yankees. Got to find a way to turn it around in Boston. Because then after that, you have 7 big games, or 7 big games in the division against Tampa and in the Blue Jays, and then you're going to have 2 against the Mets. So the schedule does not get easier after Boston. Got to find a way to turn things around. So they'll have a day off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow. Mets as well. They swept the Reds, did what they needed to do. Mets are just playing phenomenal baseball, and there's no other way. I mean, the Mets are playing phenomenal. I'll get to them in my second topic. This is probably the best team. This is the best team I've ever witnessed. Now, I'm not obviously a Met fan, but from what I've seen, from what I watched from them, saw a little bit of the game yesterday, this is the best Met team I've ever seen. And there's no doubt about it. They're managed well. They just have a good roster. They're so talented. They just do all the things right. And there's a big difference between the Yankees and the Mets, and I'll get into all that as the show goes on here. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast. We're going to get into the Yankees' continued struggles. We're going to get into their bullpen, just get into everything that's going wrong for this team. It feels like a lot, but I mean, it feels like a lot more than what, it feels like a lot, and it is a lot. It is. So, lots going on with this Yankee team, a lot of frustrating things as we get to the middle part of August here. Things got to change. Things got to get turned around, and it's really, really frustrating what we're watching. So, we're going to get into all of it, bullpen, all that good stuff. So, we're going to get into that. We're also going to get to the Mets' success, the tale of 2 baseball teams. We go from the Yankees' struggles to the Mets' success. Yeah, like I said, Mets have been phenomenal. They've been great. This is by far the best Met team that I think a lot of Met fans have ever seen, and by far the best Met team I've ever seen. Obviously from what I've witnessed, everybody knows the '86 Met team was probably the greatest of all time, but not many people witnessed that, right? That's all. I mean, a good amount of people witnessed it, but I never witnessed it, obviously. So this is definitely the best I've seen, and just the way they're playing and the way they're winning is just showing you what a good manager can do to a baseball team, what Buck Showalter has done, what the Mets have done all along. I mean, it's just, if they are playing fundamentally sound baseball, something the Yankees are not doing. So, we'll get into all that. Then we'll get to the New York Sports Update to finish things off. Like I said, Yankees-Mets day off today, but the Giants play tonight. Yes, there's some football on tonight. Giants versus the Patriots. Their first preseason game of 3 games, and the Jets will play tomorrow in their first of 3 preseason games in Philly against the Eagles. So both those games, it's preseason. It's super exciting. I'm not getting pumped up for the Jet game tomorrow. I mean, I'll watch it, and obviously I'll see a little bit of it, but I'm not overly, let's go, it's a preseason game. It is what it is. But it is football. And you do get to see guys that are, maybe on the roster bubble. You get to watch guys, you're going to get a glimpse of Daniel Jones and see what he's doing in the offense. It does make a difference from, in-game to just practice. There is a difference, but, we'll see how it all plays out. I've always said the biggest thing with preseason is the only thing the biggest thing you're rooting for is that everybody just gets out of there healthy. Because at the end of the day, preseason means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Now, sure, to some players it means something, but it doesn't. In the big, nobody. When come week one, nobody's gonna be talking about the preseason games. Nobody's gonna be doing that. Preseason means absolutely nothing. Whether you win, lose, whatever it is, nothing. So your biggest thing as a fan is just hope that everybody comes out healthy, and going into week one, you're ready to go with your full roster of healthy guys. You do want to see positives come out, preseason. You don't want to see your quarterback throw 3 interceptions when he has 3 drives, or your defense let up 2 touchdowns, and starting defense let up 2 touchdowns in the 2 drives they do to like a third stringer quarterback. You don't want to see that, but you just want to see everybody get out healthy. So we'll get into all that stuff later on in the show, but we're going to start today with some baseball. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So, like I said, it's been the tale of 2 baseball teams, tale of 2 cities. It really is crazy how the season has gone on. Yankees started so dominant. They've now really, really struggled. Mets started off very well. They had their kind of struggle period. The Mets struggle, though, wasn't that long. I mean, this has been something for the Yankees that has been going on for like the past month. It's been a elongated struggle of just bad baseball. And now you look at the Yankees and you go in and say, all right, we don't even have close to the best record in baseball now. Yankees now hold the 4th best record in baseball. They have the 2nd best record in the American League. Now, the Astros have the same record at 71-41, but the Astros have the tiebreaker with the Yankees. So if the season were to end today, Astros would be technically crowned, the AL team. They would have all the home field, all that stuff, because they have the advantage, because the Yankees couldn't beat them. They went 2-5 in the 7 games that they played against them this year, including the awful doubleheader that they played coming out of the All-Star break. So the Yankees have really struggled. Mets have continued to play well. Mets right now have the 2nd best record in baseball, only behind the Dodgers, who are phenomenal right now. 10-game win streak, 77-33. Dodgers going to be forced to be reckoned with. But the New York Yankees just continue to struggle. And they lose 2 of 3 now in Seattle. They are in a 2-game losing streak. They are 2-8 in their last 10. To give you a little bit more, what are they? Like 1-7 in their last 8. They are continuing to lose these games. They lose 2 out of 3 against Seattle last week. They go to St. Louis, get swept, and now they come out in Seattle again, and they lose 2 of 3 again. And the frustrating part of it is they lost the series after winning the first game. And that just shows you the way this team can't consistently get anything going. Because they won the first game last week, on Monday of last week, against Seattle. They won the first game. They lost the next 2 in brutal fashion. You blow it out. What was it? You lose the 1 game. You can't. Your pitching blows it. Your hitting was good. Your pitching struggles. Then Cole lets up 6 runs. And then you go to St. Louis. You get swept there. And argue easily you could have won 2 games there. I mean, that St. Louis series could have went any way. I mean, you blow it in the 8th with Clay Holmes coming in on that Friday night game. Sunday, or Saturday, you lose 1-0. You had opportunities with running scoring position, you couldn't come through. And then Sunday, you lose 12-9, your pitching was terrible. So they could have easily won any of those 3 games. And now you go to Seattle again. You get them for the 2nd time in 3 series. You win the first game. You're like, all right, maybe that's the start of something. You then get shut out on Tuesday night, which might have been the worst display of just fundamental baseball of all time. You lose 1-0 there after Garrett Cole gives you an absolute gem of 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 8 strikeouts. After having a tough performance against Seattle last time, he bounced back. He gave you an ace-like performance. And then yesterday, you have the lead, and then Albert Abreu comes in and lets up a 2-run homer. And you're down in that game 2-1. You come back. You get you come back with a big 2-run home run by Higgy, which you don't get often. So anytime you get that, you got to take advantage of it. And the Yankees have a 3-run 7th inning, and then the Mariners come back in the bottom of the 7th and allow 3 more runs thanks to Albert Abreu. So the bullpen blows it this time. I mean, this Yankee team can't do anything right. Your hitting comes through in a big way in the 7th inning. You take the lead 3-2 or whatever, 3-1. Or 3-1. You bottom of the 9th, or bottom of the 7th rather. They come back, and Albert Abreu, who's got a 5.87 ERA in his last 7 games, let's throw him out there. He lets up a 2-run bomb. Yankees lose 4-3. So you go from winning the first game in a convincing fashion where Clay Holmes gave you a good outing, and what's most frustrating about all three of these games, your starting pitching gave you good outings. In the game one, Tyone went 7 innings, 3 runs, was very good, by far his best start in a long time. Game 2, Cole gave you an ace-like performance, which you needed to see coming off that tough outing last time against Seattle. And then Nestor yesterday was Nestor. He gave you a phenomenal outing. Striking out 10, allowing 2 runs was great. Gave you 6 innings, or allowing 3 runs rather. Gave you 6 strong innings. And you waste those 3 starting pitching. Now, Tyone, you won the game, but you waste the performance from Cole, and you waste the performance from Nestor. And it's because of the bullpen. On Tuesday, it's because the team forgot how to run the bases. I mean, where do I even start with the base running? I mean, the base running's been atrocious, and that's something that the Yankees were very good at earlier in the season, where they were running the bases well. They were playing fundamentally sound baseball. You know, they were hitting the ball. You know, they were hitting with runners in scoring position. They weren't over-relying on the home run ball. I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but it's because those are all things that the Yankees did well earlier in the year, and now they've completely went out the window, and this looks more like the 2021 Yankees, which nobody wants to remember. I mean, the 2021 Yankees were atrocious. That was an awful year last year for the New York Yankees. Yeah, we made the postseason. We were awful in the wild card game. You had strikeouts up and down the lineup. I mean, you had just no production. Your starting pitching was iffy. A lot of that's coming back. You're over-relying on the home run ball now. Your starting pitching has some question marks, although I'm not going to crush the starting pitching today because you did have 3 very good You got the 3. I think the Yankees, the outings that you needed in those 3 games, the Yankees got. Tyone gave you a good outing. Cole gave you a good outing. Nestor gave you a good outing. The starting pitch, the pitching was, on Tuesday, the Yankees had all sorts of opportunities. And they're out on the bases. Bases loaded 12th inning. Torres can't come through. Just get a hit. Do something offensively. And then yesterday, it's the bullpen. This Yankee team can't do anything right now. They can't. And it is time to get frustrated. If you're a Yankee fan, it's like, oh, you're going through something. This has been a elongated slump. And now the Astros have caught up to you. Now all the other teams have caught up to you. You're not even close to the best record in baseball anymore. Now if the season would end today, Houston would have home field, which is very big. That's the difference between having a Game 7 in Houston and a Game 7 in New York. And you might say, oh, it doesn't matter, home field. It matters a lot. Especially when the Yankees can't beat the Astros they can barely beat them at all, let alone on the road. So the Yankees got to get right. They got to figure something out. And the fact that this bullpen continues to struggle the way it struggles, even Loaizaga on Tuesday letting up the run in the 13th. Now, I'm not going to crush Loaizaga because when the offense doesn't give you any run support, something's going to have to bend eventually. Some teams' bullpen's going to have to bend eventually. And Seattle has a good bullpen. And when you get opportunities on a bullpen like that, you got to take advantage of it. There's no other way to put it. And something I find interesting, too, is the Yankees have seen Luis Castillo 3 times in the past, couple weeks. They saw him in Cincinnati, saw him against Seattle last week, and then they saw him again with him Seattle last week. There was Tuesday. They couldn't catch up to him either time. And sometimes it's the pitcher's advantage when they see lineups. Sometimes it's the batter's advantage. A lot of times the hitters have the advantage. Now, for example, Tuesday, Cole had the advantage on Seattle. He took what he learned from the Wednesday outing of last week against Seattle where he got rocked. He took that, turned it into a very, very good ace-like outing against Seattle on Tuesday. But my biggest thing is it's frustrating because you wasted 3 very good starts. Even Tyone, who's a guy that we've all been worried about, and still he's a question mark. I'm not saying throw Tyone out there in a big-time playoff game just based off his one outing, but even he gave you a good outing. Nestor did what Nestor does. Cole gave you an ace-like performance. And you waste those. It's extremely, extremely frustrating. Now, Tyone, they did win. I apologize if I forgot that. They won that. But you still lost the series. When you look at the pitching, if I showed you just what the pitching did, you'd probably say, oh, they swept them. It really probably. Cole gave you 7 shutout innings. Yankees had 3 hits in 13 innings on Tuesday. 3 hits in 13 innings. What is that? And then you got all the base running. And I mean, that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen out of a Yankee team. And even last year. And that's saying something because last year, the Yankees had some really, really bad performances. Of just dumb mistakes, of just bad games where they can't hit, they can't run the bases, they can't field, they can't do anything. That was literally on Tuesday. Now the Yankees, did their job on Tuesday defensively. I mean, they didn't make any errors, but base running, hitting was awful. So, and it's time to get worried. It is because, I mean, and I just don't know what Cashman and Boone are doing. Why is Marinaccio in the minor leagues? Why is he in the minors? I mean, this is a guy who has, since April, Marinaccio has given up 1 run in 22 2/3 innings. And you have Albert Abreu, who, by the way, has been DFA'd twice this year by the Rangers and in the Royals. Obviously sent them over to the Rangers in the Jose Trevino deal. And he's in his last 7 appearances has a 5.87 ERA. Marinaccio's got an ERA just north of 2 at 2.03. He's been one of the better relievers in all baseball over the past 22 and 2/3 innings pitched, and yet Albert Abreu's in there. What are we doing? What more does Albert Abreu have to show you? He's gone DFA twice. Shouldn't that be an eye-opener? And this is what I have a problem sometimes with the Yankees. It's like they try to outsmart everybody. It's like Cashman and Boone in the front office tries to outsmart everybody. Oh, let's pick up Abreu and let's try to turn him into this juggernaut. He's not good. He's not a good pitcher. They traded him for a reason. He's gone DFA twice this year for a reason. He's not good. And the stuff's there. Don't worry, the stuff's there. And yet Marinaccio, when your team is struggling, you need bullpen health, is just sitting in the minor leagues in AAA, which boggles my mind, eating up innings there that just mean absolutely nothing. I mean, it boggles my mind. It really does. That Marinaccio has been one of your best relievers all year long. You option him just to keep Abreu on the roster is awful. He stinks. He's been DFA'd twice. I mean, come on. Stop trying to act like you're outsmarting everybody. Stop trying to act like you found a hidden gem. Abreu's not good. Bottom line. 5.87 ERA in his last 7 appearances. He's gone option twice this year for a reason. He continues to let up the long ball and turn around and look at it. And Marinaccio's just sitting in AAA and eating up innings there. And it just hurts my head. It hurts my brain. Clay Holmes hasn't been good. Abreu hasn't been good. And yet, there is Marinaccio just sitting in AAA eating up innings when he's allowed 1 run in the last 22 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, it just... Don't know what more to say. I mean, it's extremely frustrating because, and you feel a little bit for Marinaccio because he earned his spot on this roster, right? He earned it. He was pitching great. He earned it. Has a whip below 1 and a .86, I think. ERA just north of 2. He earned his spot on the roster. Albert Abreu is just an outside guy that has come in, and he's been terrible. I mean, geez, Albert Abreu blew the game yesterday. He blew the game. But no, Boone said that he feels good with where they're at. He feels good with where they're at in terms of, Abreu in high leverage. He's got good stuff to get through these innings. That's great. He's got real good stuff, Boone. Why has he been DFA'd by 2 teams this year? And why is his ERA just almost just south of 6 in the last 7 appearances? But his stuff's really good. Understood. But you optioned a guy that's been one of the better relievers in all the team, has allowed 1 run in the last 22 2/3 innings. You optioned him, but you kept the guy up that's been DFA'd twice. Makes a whole lot of sense. It really does. Makes a whole lot of sense. So, Yankees yet again and this is where you just really wonder, when is the next time this team's going to, I don't think this team's going to win a World Series. I really don't. That's just me now. I mean, I know it's August and I know it's not, I just don't, this team's simply not good enough. When you look at the lineup, Torres has been struggling recently. Hicks is just hard, tough to watch. It's just, I don't know. It's terrible. It really is terrible. And I will admit, I've said this. I was very high on this Yankee team earlier in the year, but that's because they were winning and all that. But when you really look at it, the pixie dust has run out. There's a lot of the magic. This team overachieved in the first part of the year. When you had a team ERA of like 2, and you had the best ERA of any pitching staff in baseball, and Tyone had an ERA in the 2s. You had every starting pitcher in the rotation. There was a time where they all had ERAs in the 2s. Nestor was down in the 1s. He's went up a little bit, but still having a great year. When you look at those numbers earlier in the year and you now look at them, this team the Yankees didn't do much in the offseason. This is a very similar team to last year, and it's starting to show again. It is. And that's the concerning part, because the deadline just passed. You did all the moves you can make. This is the team you're going to roll with into the postseason. But that's Cashman. That's the front office's, in a way, fault of maybe not bringing in enough talent. I don't know. And you could, and to the fans out there that are sitting there and saying, oh, it's one game of 162. I mean, you got to stop that. You got to stop that. I mean, so what? I mean, it's just, these games got to matter eventually. I mean, Yankees clearly are looking forward to October. Great. So when they go into October losing with no momentum possible, and they get out there, they get their butts absolutely kicked, then that's a problem. But I mean, eventually these games have to start to matter. You can't just say, oh, these games don't matter. It's fine. Come October. Great. We said the same thing last year. October came around, they got whooped. I mean, they lost. They were lifeless in the wild card game. Are we going down the same path again? Oh, it's one game. It's one slump. It's been going on for the past month. Are we just going to say, 1 of 162, 1 of 162, it's all right, it's okay. Go to the postseason, lose again, go into the offseason again, spring training next year, our goal is to win a World Series again. It's the same thing over and over again. You got to stop the narrative of 1-162. Take the regular season a little bit more seriously. I mean, look at the Mets. I mean, they're tearing it up. I mean, they're tearing it up. They're a team. I mean, they're 5 games out, but they're a team that's making a little bit interesting in the National League to maybe have home field throughout. I mean, geez, look at their division too. They've separated. I mean, the regular season means something to them. And the Yankees are trying to be like this high pedestal team, like, oh, the regular season means nothing. Let's go to the postseason. Yeah, postseason where you failed in the past 5 years. I mean, terrible. And I got to read you this one more stat. So coming out of the All-Star break, they played Houston twice, the Mets twice. Those were 2-2 game series. Then they played Seattle 3 times, St. Louis 3 times, Seattle again 3 times. So since the All-Star break, they are 2-11 in those games, and they've only beaten the Mariners. That's all. So 2 losses there, then 2, that's 4. 1 in 6, then 1 in 9, and then 2 in 11. So 13 games out of the All-Star break. Yankees are 2-11. 2-11. So that's poor baseball. Since the trade deadline hasn't been good either. I think I saw something like the deadline. It was like 1-7. And the reason I wasn't panicking before that is, I'm not panicking. I don't want to say I don't want to panic, and I don't want to try to say, oh, the world, the baseball world's falling on us. But I did say when a lot of people were really frustrated at the deadline, I wasn't overly concerned because the deadline was coming. That was your time to reinforce the team. But even now, it seems as if there might be too many holes on this roster to fill. So you look at the Yankees' upcoming games. You got 3 against Boston, which, I mean, you should win those. With the way they're playing, you just hope they can come out with 2 or 3. If they could sweep, that's great. You just got to hope they could come out with 2 or 3 against Boston. Rays, they play 3 there at home, then they'll go back home, then they got 4 against Toronto, and then 2 against the Mets, and then they go out on the West Coast for 4 games, then for 4 games in Oakland, then 3 against the Angels, and then the Rays, and then you come back home and all that stuff. So, this homestand's not going to be easy because you have the Rays for 3, which the Rays aren't nearly as good as they were last year, and they've been, but still, I mean, with the way they're, like I said, and people got to realize with the way the Yankees are playing, I mean, anything's possible at this point. I mean, the way they're playing, they could get swept by Boston. I mean, that's really how it is. Same thing with the Rays. If they go into the Rays series losing 2 or 3 in Boston and struggling, the Rays are more than capable of beating them. And then you have 4 against Toronto, which Toronto's a better team than the Rays. And then you got 2 more against the Mets. And if you get smoked against the Mets, not only is that going to just look bad because you get swept overall in the season series. But then you're looking at yourself like the Mets are one of the better teams in baseball. If you really want to match up against one of them, you couldn't beat the Astros, you couldn't beat the Mets. I mean, this is where things really start to get concerning. And you could say, oh, October turns things around. We've been saying that for the past 5 years, people. We've been saying that for the past couple seasons. October. Come October, talk to me in October. Okay, fine. Well, the Yankees, if they lose again in October, and again they don't get to the World Series, then what? I mean, year after year after year, it seems we're going down the same path with this Yankee team. Got to get this figured out, and got to get it figured out quickly. So they'll get a much needed day off today before, like I said, heading to Boston for 3 games, which will be 3 big ones to get back on track before going at home. Because if you start to struggle at home, you're going to hear it from the crowd. You're going to hear it from the fans. If the Yankees have been so good at home this year, if they start to struggle at home and they're 41-15 at home. And look, like I said, it's not like the Yankees are 2 games up in the division. They still have the division very locked up. They're 71-41. They're still 30 games above 500. I understand all that, but when you look at the trajectory they're going on, it's like this. You don't want that. You want this. They're going like this. And going into the postseason going like this is not what you want. So, Yankees got to find a way to turn things around. We shall see how it all plays out. All right, so now let's go to the other baseball team in New York because, like I said, tale of 2 teams. And got to give credit where credit's due. I don't like the Mets. I don't think any Yankee fan does. And the Met fans right now are trolling Yankee fans saying, oh, this, that, better record, all that stuff. I mean, they have every right. They have every right to do it. I mean, you just got to take it and run with it. You just got to take it on the chin, I guess. I mean, Mets right now are playing great baseball, and their fans have every right to, say what they want and all that good stuff of being all optimistic, but the Mets continue to win. Mets right now find themselves 72-39, second best record in baseball behind the Dodgers, who are 10-game win streak, have shown no signs of slowing down. They're 77-33. Mets won a 6-game win streak, 8-2 in their last 10, and completely polar opposites from the Yankees. Coming out of the All-Star break, Yankees have been awful. For the Mets since the All-Star break, they've been phenomenal. And you got to give credit where credit's due to Billy Epperler and his front office and Steve Cohen. Because coming out of the trade deadline, a lot of us thought, myself included, that the Mets really missed out at the trade deadline. Missed out on guys like William Contreras. Missed out on guys like David Robertson, right? Maybe, a guy like a Josh Bell or, Trey Mancini or one of those guys, one of the bigger bats that was out there, one of the bigger bats that was available, a big-time bullpen arm in David Robertson that was available. A lot of people thought they missed out on those guys, and they were frustrated about it. And I don't disagree. I thought they missed out on a lot of those guys, too. Instead, they brought in a guy like a Michael Givens, who hasn't played much of an impact, but they brought in him, and they brought in their 2 bats of Naquin and Vogelbach, and that was and Darren Ruff, and that was just about it. That was just about the moves that the New York Mets made. And you're like, all right, what are these? I mean, the Mets have a lot more holes in their lineup, it seems, than just bringing in Vogelbach, Naquin, and Darren Ruff. They did get rid of J.D. Davis, which was which everybody wanted him out of here, similar to Gallo. Everybody wanted Gallo out of New York. A lot of Met fans wanted J.D. Davis away from the Mets. And Gallo's actually hitting well now in the Dodgers. He had a 3-run homer last night. But you bring in Darren Ruff, you bring in Vogelbach, you bring in Naquin, and now all 3 of those guys are exploding. I mean, what you're seeing out of this Met team is Naquin, who's been phenomenal, Vogelbach, who's been phenomenal, and the couple games that Darren Ruff played, he's done his job. I mean, the New York Mets, the whole thing coming out of the deadline was we didn't really know how much better they got. It was like we felt they got better, but are they good enough to top the Padres? Are they good enough to top the Dodgers when you see just their roster? When you see the moves the Padres made? Even when you see the moves the Phillies made? And, a couple of the other teams that they might have to run through going to the postseason. Not saying the Mets should be afraid of the Phillies. The Phillies are hot. They'll go to Citi Field over the weekend. Not saying that, but you see the other moves nationally teams have made, and the Mets kind of stayed put. And you're like, all right, this is frustrating. This isn't good. This is giving us, reminders of the Wilpons not doing anything. But, I mean, when you really look at it now, the Mets trade deadline has been a hit out. I mean, it's been quite literally, they've hit it out of the ballpark. I mean, Darren Ruff, in the 5 games and the 15 at-bats that he's played, he's got a .333 batting average. You look at Naquin, he's got a .367 batting average. You look at Vogelbach, since joining the Mets, he's played a little bit longer in 15 games. He's got a batting average of .341 and on-base percentage of .473. And oh yeah, he's 10 RBIs and he's already knocked in 2 long bombs. Long ones. This was a guy that when the Mets acquired him was batting like the 220s, 230s. Now he's all the way up in the 240s, close to getting over to the 250s. I mean, what Vogelback's done's been phenomenal, and he's kind of a fat guy. Everybody loves him. He's liked around the locker room. Met fans have kind of gathered around him. Just the feeling around this Met team is so good. Naquin's been phenomenal. Vogelback's been phenomenal. You look at your top of your lineup, Francisco Lindor is playing like the Francisco Lindor that they paid for. 270 batting average, 349 on base percentage, an OPS now of 813. Everybody was talking about the OPS earlier in the season. That is very good. He's got a WAR of 4.6, which is up amongst some of the better ones in the league. Defense has been phenomenal. He's been great. So you look at the Mets. Alonso, up there in top of the league with RBIs, up there close to Judge. Lindor's playing some of his best baseball he's ever played as a Met so far. Starling Marte having a good year. Nimmo having a good year. Jeff McNeil, although he's been a little colder recently, starting to heat up a little bit more. 307 batting average, he leads the team. I mean, the Mets got bats up and down this lineup. Defensively, fundamentally sound baseball. I mean, the Mets are just playing, are doing great things right now. And they're still doing it with some holes in their lineup, like Tomas Nido, like James McCann. They're still doing it with some holes in their lineup, with their catchers batting 181 and 226. But they have so much other talent in their lineup that they're able to cover that up. And the three guys that they brought in, the three bats, have all of a sudden turned into big-time bats. And maybe that's what the Mets saw in them. But what the Mets have done, what Steve Cohen, what Billy Epler has done, I mean, this is phenomenal. They brought in Showalter, and the players are playing for him. They respect him. You could see that they're making the plays in their field. They're doing the little things right. And I've said this all along about the New York Mets, is when you watch them play, they might not always be the pretty team. Like, you even look at the way they win sometimes. Like, they win series, but sometimes, a lot of times, they take 2 of 3. And you're like, come on, sweep. Start to get some sweeps. And they did just sweep the Reds. But when you look at the Mets, like, such early in the year, they were winning 2 of 3. They were winning 2 of 3, winning 2 of 3, winning 2 of 3. 4-game set, they take 3 of 4. Like, they weren't sweeping teams. Like, the Yankees early in the year were sweeping teams, and everybody was like, they were doing things flashier, sweeping teams, crushing teams. The Mets always weren't doing that. Now they've done it a little bit more, but even just finding ways to get 2 of 3 from these teams, the Mets have done. And that's what Buck Showalter is going to bring to the table. 2 of 3, 2 of 3, 2 of 3. All right, here's a sweep. And that's the path that the Mets have taken. They are now 34 games above 500. And the Mets look at themselves second best record in baseball, only behind the Dodgers, who are currently in the middle of a 10-game win streak, and they are 77 and 33. So down the stretch, if the Mets get really hot like that, who knows how that plays out? Mets might end up with the best record in all of baseball to end the year. They are 8-2 in their last 10 and are on a 6-game win streak, which is just phenomenal. I mean, they have the third longest win streak in all of baseball. Phillies have the second longest with 7. And it's funny, the Phillies have the 6th best record in baseball. When you look at the Phillies, they have a better record than the Padres and the Cardinals, which is crazy. Even the Blue Jays, when you look at the beginning of the season, I don't think many people saw that out of the Phillies. But what you've seen from this Mets team is great. And if you're a Met fan, from what I've seen, and I'm not even a Met fan, and I don't watch them. When the Yankees are on, I'm watching the Yankees. So it's not like I've seen all these Met teams before. But when you look at this Met team, this is a team that's more than capable of going deep in the postseason. Because let's be honest here, the Padres have struggled a little bit, but they're a team that you do have to expect is gonna be better. When you look at this Met team, though, they're more than capable of beating the Braves. They've shown this year they can beat the Phillies. The Phillies are a hot team right now, so we'll see how they do at Citi Field on starting tomorrow. Brewers are beatable. Padres are beatable. Like the Padres have shown some, they've been a little bit beatable recently. They're 5-5 in the last 10 win streak of 2. The big threat to the Mets, I think, now is the Dodgers. And that's really what it comes down to. The big threat for the Mets now is the Dodgers. And that's really the big threat to every team in baseball. Every American League team is going to dread having to face the Dodgers in the World Series, but that's the big threat. That's the only other team that's got a better record than you in all baseball, and that might be the only team you're going to have to really be concerned about going through. And if things line up right, they might go through the Dodgers in the NLCS. It might get all the way until they face the Dodgers. And look, when you get that deep in the playoffs, anything can happen. I guess that's what they all say, right? So Mets right now are in a very good situation come postseason and are in a very good situation right now in terms of their division. And unlike the Yankees where they're slumping and then they're looking forward to the postseason, Mets are still very focused on these games. They are still very honed in. They are still very, very focused on winning these regular season games and going into October on the right note. The Yankees aren't. And that's just the difference in clubhouse. That's just the difference in talent. That's the difference in managing. Buck Showalter's not going to let his guys to get caught looking ahead. Yankees don't care about these games. They're looking ahead to the postseason, which is sad because every year they've done that, they lose. That's the reality. It is. For the Met team, though, these games mean a lot to them. They're still trying to bury the Braves. Their Braves are now 7 games back. They were 2.5 games back a couple weeks ago. Mets are now 7 up. It just shows you manager, decision-making, roster, front office. I mean, the Mets have just done everything right. They really have. I mean, the Mets right now are the best team in New York. No other way to put it. And I can't not say that. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I'm a Yankee fan saying the Mets are better than the Yankees right now. They are. There's no other way to put it. They beat the Yankees twice. They're playing better than the Yankees, got a better record than the Yankees. Everything matches up. If you're a Yankee fan today trying to argue that the Yankees are better than the Mets, you're just wrong. Let's be real here. You're wrong. Mets are one of the best teams in baseball. Only one team has a better record than them now. And that is the Dodgers. And you could say, oh, the Mets are going to go through their cold stretch. The Mets have kind of already gone through a cold stretch. And it wasn't that long. This Met team's been very consistent. And that's why during that cold stretch, when they weren't hitting with runners in scoring position, they weren't getting the big hit, it was very odd because you didn't see that from that team. It didn't last long. And I still go back to that home run against the Padres, Alonso. After that home run against the Padres from Pete Alonso, this Met team's been dominant. It have been. Ever since that home run, it's like they unlocked them. Because then they took 2 from the Yankees. They're beating the Braves. They're taking care of business against teams like the Nationals. They're doing their thing. And even against the Nationals. And Buck Showalter, that's something Buck's done very well with the team. Mets are a very good team at bouncing back. Whether they crush a team or lose to a team, very good at bouncing back. Look at that National series. They won the first game, lost the second game in a really tough way. 5-1 in DeGrom's return. But they bounced back. They won the next day 9-5. Right, you look at the Braves series. They win the first game. Then they lose the second game 9-6. Braves really kind of beat them up. Taijuan Walker had a tough outing. Series easily could have shifted to the Braves' favor. Braves easily could have took the next 2 or whatever. And we look at this series completely differently. And you look at the Met team right now completely differently. Instead, they bounce back, win the next 3 games. 8-5, 6-2, 5-2. All of them in pretty convincing fashion. Right? You go to the Reds. You win the first game 5-2, win the second game 6-2. You already won the series. You could very well get caught looking ahead going to Philly, welcoming Phillies, one of the hottest teams in all of baseball. And you crushed the Reds yesterday as well. Taking care of business. Something that when you have a good manager and a talented roster, you win the game and you move on from it. You lose the game, you move on from it. Every game is new. And that is what this Met team mindset is. That is why they're having so much success. And let's be honest here, that's why they're one of the best teams. That's why they have the second best record in all of baseball. And really probably the second best team in all of baseball. I mean, sure, the Astros have beaten them a lot this year too, in the 4 games that they've played against them. But, the Mets right now, Mets fans might be looking at the Padres scared. Padres fans, I'm sure, are looking at the Mets scared. A lot of teams now, Mets are definitely on the radar now. Because of the way that they're playing and the way that they're winning convincingly. Fundamentals. Talked about the Yankees that they forgot how to run the bases. Mets do all that stuff well. Defensively, they've been great. Even some of the guys that haven't had great hitting seasons. Eduardo Escobar. Hitting this year has been although it's kind of always been like that. Luis Guillorme, who's actually been a very solid hitter for the team with a .281 batting average, right? And a .356 on base percentage. He's been phenomenal defensively. He's been just great for the Mets. But even a guy like Eduardo Escobar, when you look at his numbers hitting, they aren't great. .273 on base, .220, batting average, OPS of .663. But his defense has been phenomenal this year. He's made some great defensive plays. Guillorme as well. So even when guys aren't maybe not hitting, They're just a great. It's a team. They win as a team. I mean, that's really what it is. They do. They beat you with defense. They beat you in the bullpen, and that's just what the Mets team has consistently done. Yankees earlier in the year were doing that. They're not doing that anymore, and they're not even close to doing it anymore. That's concerning. But for the Mets, if you're a Met fan today, you got to feel great. And I agree with a lot of you. This is definitely the best Met team I've ever seen. I mean, even going back to that 2015 team, it wasn't until late July, early August where they really turned things on, made a great run, got to the World Series, lost. And let's be honest here, it was just the more talented Royals team. I mean, that Royals lineup was so deep. When you look at guys like Alcides Escobar, Hosmer, Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain, you looked at their pitching with, Cueto, all those guys. I mean, there were so many good guys on that roster. That was a very, very good team that the Royals brought in that year. They haven't been the same since either. Even that wild card team the next year when they played against the Giants and they lost, just wasn't the same team. This team, there's just a lot of talent, better coaching. It's just what the Mets are doing is phenomenal. So their upcoming schedule, 3 against Philly, then you have 4 against Atlanta, which, I mean, if you keep winning, that series against Atlanta might not mean as much. Now, you'd have to keep winning. And that's something the Mets have done well. They went into that national, they easily could have, they lost the final game in Miami, right? Did they lose the final game in Miami? Let me see. No, they swept Miami. Then they beat the Nationals. Took 2 of 3. That's what the Mets needed to do. Took care of business against Marlins, took care of business against the Nationals, took care of business against the Braves, then the Reds. Now you have a big 7-game stretch. 3 against Philly, 4 against Atlanta, then you have 4 more against Philly. One of those is going to be a doubleheader. So you have some big in-division games. And I'll tell you what, Phillies are a team. Yes, right now when you look at them, they are 10 games out. But if they keep winning, they might sneak over the Braves and be like 6 games out if they keep winning. So this is a big series for Philly. Then you have the Yankees, then the Rockies, and then that's going to be a big, big series when the Dodgers come to town for a 3-game set at the end of August into September. That's going to be a very, very big, big series there. So, anyway, a lot going on with the Mets. Then you go Nationals. I mean, you look at this Mets schedule, and I'm not trying to go too far ahead, but you look at this Mets schedule: Phillies, Braves, Phillies. That's probably, in my opinion, when you look at their schedule, and then the Yankees, who are struggling right now, but that's probably going to be your toughest stretch yet this year remaining, because then you have the Rockies, very winnable. Now you do have the Dodgers, but what comes after the Dodgers is extremely winnable. 3 against the Nationals, then the Pirates, then the Marlins, then the Reds, or the Cubs, then the Pirates again. And then the Brewers, which, okay, Brewers are solid, not great, definitely beatable. A's, Marlins, then you finish out the year with the Braves and then the Nationals. So you look at the Mets schedule on the rest of the way out, on the rest of the season, there are a lot of winnable series there. The two hardest is the Dodgers, which is going to be hard. But at the end, if you want to say that, you can say that too, and the Dodgers are going to be incredibly hard. I truly think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. But you're the Mets. The Mets are playing well too. Sometimes, you got to step up and say, look, we can beat the Dodgers, right? Sometimes you got to do that as a fan or a team too. You could look at the other team on the schedule and say, oh man, that's going to be harder. But I'm sure they're looking at you the same way. So, Mets have a good, if they're on the way here on out, sure, they might have a little bit of a hiccup. It's going to happen. Shouldn't happen as long as the Yankees are, but they might have a little bit of a hiccup. But you look at this Mets schedule, I mean, it's very, very favorable. I mean, geez, you have a stretch of games that's going to be the Nationals, Pirates, Marlins, Cubs, Pirates. I mean, that is about as easy as it gets. I mean, I know they're all baseball, but teams. And by September, too, sometimes you get September call-ups. Guys that come in late in the year, you might get some of those guys. So those might be some young guys trying to... I mean, you look at their schedule, Brewers, then you have the A's, which, I mean, geez, the A's stink. Marlins, Braves, and then you finish out the year with 3 against the Nationals. So, they keep winning. That's one thing that's good. If the Mets keep winning, they can give a lot of rest to guys down the stretch because they won't be playing great teams. That's what's so good about the Mets. And I mean, that's why it's great, right? And that's another thing with the Yankees. If they keep losing, they might not be able to rest too many guys down the stretch. They might have to they might be fighting for home field. That's what's so frustrating about this all. So, anyway, Mets continue to win, Yankees continue to lose, and that's kind of where we're at right now with baseball in the world of New York, I should say. So we shall see how it all plays out. Both teams have a day off today. Yankees are in Boston. Mets welcome the Phillies to town. All right, so let's get to the MLB today. You got the Phillies, Marlins, Tigers, Guardians, Astros, Rangers, Royals, White Sox, Rockies, Cardinals, Diamondback, Pirates, Red Sox, Orioles, and the Cubs, Reds. This is 7:15 Eastern on Fox. This is the Field of Dreams game. The Cubs and the Reds in Dyersville, Iowa. So really, really pretty cool game there. Yankees, White Sox obviously didn't last year, although the game did not end the way we wanted it to as a Yankee fan, but it was an excellent game, awesome. And a couple days ago, they had two minor league teams play there. So I watched some of that. That was really cool. That was on Tuesday. And now the big old Field of Dreams game is today. Now, let's be honest. The opponents aren't great. The two teams aren't great. 45 and 65 Cubs, 44 and 66 Reds. But you got to get over the fact. It's just the sight. It's the overall just picture of it, the movie, the baseball history. There's so much positive and great energy around this game, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. So 7:15 Eastern tonight, Fox, Field of Dreams game, Yankees, White Sox. Last year was awesome. The game didn't end well. It was frustrating as a Yankee fan, but the game itself was awesome. I mean, Stanton in that home run, balls going into the cornfields. I mean, guys coming out of the corn. Kevin Costner there. I mean, all that stuff. Then earlier in the day, you had the younger baseball teams playing at the field that it was actually the movie was shot at. I mean, it was so cool. And they're expanding the Field of Dreams game too, where they're going to do college stuff, and so the whole thing's really expanding. It's a really cool event. So definitely recommend that tonight. And I got to admit, as much as I love watching the Yankees and stuff, sit back and relax and watch another baseball game without kind of being stressed out about watching your favorite team. Tonight is definitely a good night to do that with round 2 of the Field of Dreams game. We also got some football on tonight. Yes, preseason week 1. You got Ravens, Titans, Falcons, Lions, Browns, Jaguars, Cardinals, Bengals, 49ers, Packers. I apologize. Today you have the Giants, Pirates, jeez. Not even, I'm still in baseball mode. Giants, Patriots, and Ravens, Titans. Tomorrow there's a bunch of other games. Those are the 2 games on tonight. By the way, Giants come into tonight's game 2.5-point favorites, over under 34.5, 7 Eastern, NFL Network. If you're interested in watching, that's on tonight. Preseason football, Giants, Patriots. By the way, tomorrow it's Jets, Eagles, so we'll get to that tomorrow. But yeah, preseason football back in action. And got a little Giants, Patriots action, and got a little Jets, Eagles tomorrow night. So, like I said, it's preseason. It's nothing, nothing that everybody gets so pumped up for. It's preseason football, but it is football. There are, it's not great. It's not super exciting to watch, but it is football nonetheless. All right, so as for fantasy baseball in my main league, I'm currently winning 122-89. I've got Kyle Gibson on the mound today. In my other league, I'm currently winning 118-114, and I've got nobody on the mound today in that league. By the way, my main league, I got Kyle Gibson, who's coming off a very good outing his last time out, where he almost threw a perfect game. 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 4 Ks, 30 points, 4.36 ERA. Gibson's been very good for me. Very good for me. So, fantasy baseball. By the way, I made a move in my other league. I got rid of Jared Walsh, and I picked up Wilmer Flores, who can play just about every position you want him to do. So, Wilmer Flores, former Met. So, that will do it for the podcast today. A little football on tonight, Giants, Patriots. So, for those of you out here that are interested in that should be good. Giants there are some things you want to see. How does Daniel Jones work within the offense? I think it's all interesting too to see how the Patriots do. Do they even have coordinators? I don't know. I was planning on talking about the Patriots possibly a little bit and their training camp and stuff and their offense struggles. No coordinator, whatever it is. It's just an interesting situation in New England. So, anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. Enjoy all the sports on tonight. Whether you're watching some preseason football, Field of Dreams game, all that good stuff, enjoy it all. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.